A labyrinth was something that ordinary people couldn't find their way in. However, it was different for Tang Mo and especially Fu Wenduo, who was a person who often had missions in various S.P.A.ces. All labyrinths were just overlapping angles and lines to them. By knowing the angle of every corner they took and remembering the distance they traveled, they could estimate the route they took and draw it. Fu Wenduo finished drawing and they looked down at the white paper. Tang Mo said, "We haven't gone back. According to common sense, we should be moving away from the center of the maze and approaching the exit." Fu Wenduo took a look at this image. Every maze has a feature. Closer to the center, there will be more corners and the corridors will be shorter. It is because the center of the circle radiates and the outward length is larger. Thus, we are really far from the center of the maze. This made Tang Mo even more confused. Then we are really going to the exist. Fu Wenduo kept staring at the image before he looked up. Is the exist of the labyrinth on the outskirts? Tang Mo froze. You mean, Fu Wenduo suggested, what if the exit is in the middle? The sound of the water from becoming louder. In the beginning, it was almost inaudible and now it lingered in the ears of very player and Black Tower boss. Once Tang Mo and Fu Wenduo understood their position and situation, the two of them didn't waste time. They picked up the box and turned to go back. Halfway through this, Tang Mo pulled Fu Wenduo to a stop and Fu Wenduo glanced at him. Tang Mo wondered, the labyrinth's exit is at the center but there are more boxes further to the outskirts. If players want to find the exist, it is very difficult for them to get these boxes. Then what is the purpose of these boxes? He looked up at Fu Wenduo. They didn't know why but Tang Mo and Fu Wenduo felt this situation was somewhat familiar. The exit was at the center of the map and all players were gathered at the center. However, the props were like radiating stars. The closer it was to the outside of the circle, the more there were. Combined with the number of players, it would be difficult to grab a box close to the center. Tang Mo seemed to have seen this type of game before. Suddenly the two people looked at each other with surprise and the popular name for several games appeared in their minds. Eat Chicken. TL, seemed to arise from PUBG. On the other side, the baby-faced youth struggled to run forward while a wolf in a pink dress was behind him. The distance maintained between the person and the wolf was too clever. Grandmother Wolf's speed might be the slowest among the first CLA.S.S Black Tower bosses but her slow speed was Bairu Eao's limit. Bairu Eao tried to escape and couldn't be caught by Grandmother Wolf, but at the same time, he suddenly hoped that Grandmother Wolf could run faster and simply grab him. If this person was faster then she wouldn't give him hope and he wouldn't need to run for half an hour. The consumption of physical strength was inevitable. Bairu Eao's speed was gradually decreasing while Grandmother Wolf wasn't affected. After seeing that Grandmother Wolf was catching up to Bairu Eao, the baby-faced youth pulled out two B.U.T. turfly knives. Suddenly, the sound of two pairs of footsteps came from not far away. Bairu Eao raised his head vigilantly and stared coldly in front of him. Once he saw the people approaching, a huge smile appeared on his face and he waved happily. H.E.L. Dear. What a coincidence. Mu Huixiu had worked hard to shake off Santa Claus. She frowned slightly when she looked up and saw Bairu Eao. Then she saw Grandmother Wolf chasing after Bairu Eao. Mu Huixiu shouted, F.U.C.K. Mu Huixiu and Andre both knew Grandmother Wolf. As soon as they saw her, they turned and ran. I want to go with you. Dear, wait for me. Bairu Eao didn't feel that he was trouble and happily led Grandmother Wolf in Mu Huixiu and Andre's direction. The three people were chased by Grandmother Wolf and run away. Mu Huixiu and Andre suddenly ran into a dead end and had to turn back. Bairu Eao saw the two of them exploring the path for him and shouted, thank you. Then he turned and ran into another corridor. It changed to Bairu Eao running in front while Mu Huixiu and Andre ran behind him. Grandmother Wolf was in the last position. This chase lasted 10 minutes. Originally, Mu Huixiu and Andre thought that there was only one Grandmother Wolf. If she chased Bairu Eao then she couldn't catch them. However, Bairu Eao didn't give them a chance to get rid of him. He knew that if he ran from Grandmother Wolf alone, there was only one dead road. Thus, he frantically wrapped himself around Mu Huixiu and refused to let her go. Finally, the three of them were trapped by Grandmother Wolf. She gently bit the human arm in her hands and smiled insidiously. Are you still running? Mu Huixiu pulled the long whip from her waist and sighed as she watched Grandmother Wolf. Andre's fists clenched as he prepared to attack. Bairu Eao ran behind the two people only to be stopped by Mu Huixiu's whip. Bairu Eao blinked and was about to speak when Mu Huixiu smiled slightly. Fly, if you dare to escape when we deal with Grandmother Wolf then I will give you after we leave this game. Bairu Eao watched Mu Huixiu and thought about the consequences of being chased by this person and the consequences of being defeated by Grandmother Wolf and giving up the game. The baby-faced youth spread open his hands in a hurt manner. Who said that I would escape? Andre replied, Hui isn't stupid. Bairu Eao smiled. Learn Chinese first before talking to me again. The three people raised their weapons and glanced at each other before tacitly Rus.H.I+NG towards Grandmother Wolf. Grandmother Wolf elegantly pulled out her pink parasol and shyly concealed her B.L.O.O.D.Y mouth. So many people bullying a lady together, this isn't gentlemanly behavior. She spoke soft words as the small parasol opened, blocking Mu Huixiu's whip and causing it to slam into the wall. Mu Huixiu retracted the whip and aimed it again. Andre roared and threw punches at the wolf. Grandmother Wolf opened the small parasol and spun it. Andre's fist slammed into the surface and bounced off. When the small parasol was open, its defense was like a meteorite. When it was closed, the attack was as strong as a tiger. This was the small parasol, but the one in Grandmother Wolf's hands was much stronger than Tang Mo's parasol. This one was at least rare rated. Bai Ruiao was dexterous, Mu Huixi was good at long-range attacks and Andre was good at close combat. The three of them worked together and finally Grandmother Wolf revealed a gap. Bai Ruiao's idea was to take this opportunity to escape. He shouted, "Go!" Mu Huixi also had this intention and fled with him. Unexpected, Andre used this gap to attack Grandmother Wolf. Mu Huixi was stunned but she gritted her teeth and helped Andre attack again. Bai Ruiao had already ran 10 meters. Once he saw this, he scoffed and returned to attack. The three of them pressed Grandmother Wolf into a corner. Grandmother Wolf roared, "U.A.M.N. stinky humans." The three people felt bad, only to see Grandmother Wolf violently throw away her small parasol and get on all fours. She screamed angrily as the pink dress on her body was broken apart by bulging muscles. Mu Huixu exclaimed, "No, her strongest weapon is her body, not her umbrella." As a lady, the wolf's small parasol was her strongest weapon. Still, every resident of the Black Tower world knew that as long as Grandmother Wolf was still a lady, everything was safe. Once she was no longer a lady, even Santa didn't dare to look at this terrible female wolf. Grandmother Wolf roared and rushed forward, her two claws attacking Bai Ruiao. These claws couldn't be avoided. Bai Ruiao's eyes flashed and no one could see what he took out of his pocket. He bit it hard and as the wolf's claws descended, his body teleported 10 steps away. Grandmother Wolf ignored him and attacked Mu Huixu and Andre. The one closest to her was Andre. The strong Russian man stared at Grandmother Wolf with dull eyes. His best choice was to turn and run away, but whether it was him or Mu Huixu, Grandmother Wolf would still attack a person. Andre didn't think much. If he wanted to fight then he would fight the opponent head-on. He never shrank back and he wouldn't let a woman get injured for him. Andre formed fists and roared like a wild beast. His hands became a fiery red as they slammed into the wolf's paws. Grandmother Wolf's claws cracked and blood seeped out. Andre's hands were directly damaged and his bones were broken in a strange position, the white bones sticking out of the skin. Mu Huixu had already run a few steps. Once she saw this, she swore and ran back. The wolf was rarely injured. She became angrily and struck at Andre. A female hand appeared above Andre, a small compa.s.s held on the palm. Mu Huixu looked at Grandmother Wolf and turned the pointer on the compa.s.s. Her eyes flashed brightly as she declared, "Fallacy, I refute." A red light glowed on the small compa.s.s. Grandmother Wolf's body suddenly turned back 180 degrees, her claws scratching at the wall of the maze. Mu Huixu took this opportunity to grab Andre's collar and run. The three people ran for a long time and Grandmother Wolf disappeared completely. Andre's hands were broken in a strange posture and Bai Ruiao gasped against the wall. The three of them hadn't spoken yet when they heard two weak footsteps not far away. Bai Ruiao and Mu Huixu raised their weapons and watched a corner of the labyrinth with vigilance. As Tang Mo walked around the corner, a silver B.U.T. turfly knife flew towards him. Fu Wenduo raised his hand in front of Tang Mo and blocked it. The B.U.T. turfly knife collided with the steel skin and returned to Bai Ruiao's hand. The two sides saw the other people's faces and felt relieved. At a time like this, players from the same region were always better than Black Tower monsters and players from other regions. Tang Mo looked at Bai Ruiao and felt that this psychopath wasn't so unsightly. Fu Wenduo saw Andre's broken arms and frowned. "Which tower boss did you encounter?" Mu Huixu replied, "Grandmother Wolf." Tang Mo's scalp tingled when he heard the name. He looked around and asked, "Did you get rid of her?" Bai Ruiao wiped at non-existent tears. Tang, I almost died under the claws of the female wolf. She is so fierce." Fu Wenduo looked between Mu Huixu and Andre. It didn't seem to be a life or death situation. He pulled out a bottle of mineral water and handed it to Andre. Andre understood that this was definitely a prop for healing. "Shoo shoo. TL, he was trying to say yes yet, which is thank you but misp.r.o. announced." Fu Wenduo replied in Russian, "It is nothing." Mu Huixu discovered that Tang Mo had a big black bag that was filled with heavy things. He didn't have them when he entered the game. She asked, "What is this?" Tang Mo looked at their empty hands. "The labyrinth contains black boxes. You can get props by saying the tongue twister. You didn't receive any." The Cantonese Mu Huixu didn't want to talk. Bai Ruiao, who was chased by Grandmother Wolf and had no time to grab anything, didn't want to talk. Only Andre said, "I grabbed 3. Tang Mo frowned. "If I'm not guessing wrong, these props are very useful for this game. The exit is in the center of the maze but these items are placed away from the center. This is test whether we can figure this out, hurry to grab more props and then go back to the center." Mu Huixu understood what he meant. "You are saying that we needed these props to leave the maze." "It is just my guess." Fu Wenduo opened his mouth. "Right now, we should be close to the center of the maze. Have you met players from other districts?" Mu Huixu answered, "I've encountered 2. One of them escaped while the other was killed by Santa's sleigh." Bai Ruiao also said, "I saw Grandmother Wolf eating a person. They seem to be a foreigner with gold hair." Tang Mo said, "Then at least 2 players have died." Bai Ruiao wondered, "Hey Tang, what do you think this game is? Why do I feel like we are the white mice put into the maze and Grandmother Wolf is the terrible monster? So scary. I don't want the monsters to eat me." Tang Mo looked at the baby-faced youth and was preparing to ridicule him when the expressions of the 5 people suddenly changed. Tang Mo exclaimed, "The sound of water is gone." Fu Wenduo nodded. The sound of water is gone. An unknown premonition filled their hearts. At their level, this type of bad premonition could no longer be regarded as a hunch. It was a subconscious speculation based on experience. Their subconscious minds noticed that something bad was about to happen. Tang Mo said, the place we are in now might actually be a closed S.P.A.ce. The circulation of the air isn't good and there is no light. There is the sound of water, Fu Wenduo continued, the sound of the water is like a closed pool. The water sounds like not only is it from impact to the surface of the water, but also the vibration of the air. As the water flow increases, the vibration of the air column becomes more frequent. Once the gas column becomes smaller, the pool will be filled. Tang Mo asked, the pool is filled. The 5 people thought about it. The pool being filled, what did this mean? Why was there a pool filled with water in the labyrinth? Noah, Tang Mo whispered the name. Noah's sugar ball, Noah's toothbrush, Noah's bubble bath, Noah's underwear. Tang Mo suddenly looked up and met Fu Wenduo's eyes. Who is Noah? Bai Ruiao's eyes widened. Noah's Ark. Tang Mo wondered, where is the S.H.I+P? The center of the maze? Is it the exit of the labyrinth? Andre's Chinese wasn't good. Tang Mo and the others were speaking so quickly that he couldn't understand. However, he understood Noah's Ark. The big man sighed and said, the big flood. The other 4 were silent. In the dark maze, the monsters were heading towards the exit of the labyrinth. The players also heard the sound of the water and moved close to the center of the maze. 3 minutes after the strange water sound stopped, a loud whistle rang. The sound was so loud that it was like a giant singing in the room. He happily hummed for a moment before starting to sing. I am the great Noah. I am the darling of God. Noah likes to take baths and wash away the mud and smelly sweat. Ah, I love taking a bath. The moment the word bath was heard, Fu Wenduo took Tang Mo's hand and pulled him towards the center of the maze. Bai Ruiao also ran towards the center of the maze at the fastest speed. In every corner of the maze, some players reacted slowly while some reacted quickly. Without exception, by the time Noah sang the last word, all of them ran towards the center of the labyrinth. Once the song finished, there was the loud sound of water. The next moment, countless streams of water came from all sides of the maze. The terrible flood pushed against the wall of the maze and headed for the center. All players and monsters were running towards the center of the maze while outside the maze, a giant sat in his bathtub and sighed with relief. Ah, it is good to take a bath. Added a KO5 for the people asking for an alternative to Patreon. You can also join my Discord channel to chat with fellow readers about the novels.